forgiven. Student loans were not. They're not even in the same category.
Let's agree to disagree. How about it? Because I have to say, I agree with you about the whole remark about student loans versus PPE loans. We're not supposed to be forgiven. I would agree with you 100%, but I got an issue with that. And I saw from your last Twitch that you closed up your Stitch and um, other thing like a duet. I'm guessing because you didn't want to hear the backlash or people, coming for you in the comments. I can understand why you did that. So that's fine. We'll push that aside. Now that being said, I will say this to you. Even if the student loans were not supposed to be forgiven, the fact is, I'm going to tell you why they were there in the first place. Number one, majority of students didn't apply or even qualify for a thing called a Pell Grant, or was probably not offered in their state in this country. And number two, they probably didn't even qualify or apply to FAFSA because apparently they didn't meet the criteria. And number three, they also weren't that lucky to get a scholarship like some of us, like myself included. I actually had a lucky hand when it came to getting one scholarship in my lifetime. I went to two community colleges, and number three, I also had a Pell Grant and FAFSA that had me, applied for it when I was like around 17, turning 18 at that time, that I qualified for at that time back in 2007, because that's how old I am right now. I'm 35, so I'm telling you, this is why I'm saying this. Um, I was one of those few lucky people. But of course, unfortunately, with bad luck, I didn't have that luck with came to my learning academic, experience, because I was considered what they call a slow learner, meaning my disability hindered my ability to pursue a four-year university institution. I couldn't even do that because I wasn't able to even pass the crazy thing about it is I was taking a 2-year community college, and that's why I'm saying I've been to two of them, so that's sort of like almost, I think, a year in one, maybe two in the other. I can't really remember, but that was like so many years ago. And like I said, because of my issues of having to be now currently I'm still in, which is called academic probation, and because of my bad grades of being a slow learner, I have to say that's the only reason why I can't pursue my education further, because of my issue of being a slow learner and also having bad grades. That being said, I was glad, for the life of me, I didn't think I needed to have a student loan because I wasn't able to even pay back anything because I was also having a hard time getting a job in my 20s and late teens, believe it or not. And on top of that, like I said, unlike me, those people that you're basically putting them down for, sort of supposedly indirectly, I hope you're not, but they were more better than me suited to get what I was getting, because they also had the one thing I'll never have: a regular education with no bad grades, and they were basically probably doing all the right stuff, but unfortunately, financial issues such as not qualifying for the Pell Grant, FAFSA, if not in any scholarships, they weren't lucky like that, blessed. So unfortunately, that's why they took the student loans route. This is why we're here and they're there in the first place, okay? So now that I gave you the draw and the lowdown about all that stuff, that is the reason why we're here today with this issue, and why, it makes sense what they did. Unfortunately, that's news to me now, hearing that you can't even get forgiveness on student loans. You should, especially because these freaking people did the one evil thing I talked in my last video about, was they purposely still do the same thing when it came to any kind of bank institution, called interest. And that interest is why they can't pay it back. Had they removed that, at least, you could see some people might be able to pay something sizable and have an adjustment on paying some of that stuff back. But because they won't get rid of interest, this is why they're also stuck in this rut too. This is why, sir, I know you don't want to hear this, but this is the reality of it is, of course, the so-called PPE loans had to be paid back because it's a loan, after all, in the name, duh, hence into what it's called, doy. Anyways, that being said, it's because they were going to have a investment back for whoever got the PPP loans, because they were going to have to pay the government back. It was a government issue thing, not the student loans. The student loans are not an issue thing by the government. It's just basically by whatever the school was probably working with like a program kind of situation, and that was on the kids, unfortunately, or their parents. That's why that you could say that they don't get forgiveness. It's because it wasn't a government thingy, actually. The government thingy was the PPE loans, and that was who was going to get that back in their investment. Well, I don't know. Maybe in some schools they probably had a governmental like incentive where they made that like a law or something, maybe at that state or whatever you're from. Maybe. I could be wrong, but that's just my reason why I believe they can't get forgiven, because this wasn't something the government possibly had their hand in, but it's something that was available to students to get. And like I just told you, most of them didn't qualify for what I just mentioned. That's probably why they ended up there. And also, here's another thing. 2 other reasons. Number one, they don't want to be a statistic, and they want to be out of the systematic generational curse they were probably in. And that was probably another reason why they did what they did to take out the student loans. And I could forgive them for that. Now, it's those people who defrauded the government years ago when they did that triple P loan stuff, the PPE loans. When they did that stuff, some people during the pandemic decided to, without having any jobs or any even actually viable work or something, and they probably used family members or their kids or whatever for that stuff in order to get money for themselves, like cash easy and so fast. And that's why right now you're seeing the drama 5+ years later, where now the FBI is going after those people. You're seeing all the embarrassment, and that's what's going on. See, in those cases, they deserve that. I would probably make fun of those people if I was you. The PPE loan fraudsters, yeah. Get a dig on that. Dig on them like that. They probably deserve it. But the ones who were like the ones who lost, unfortunately, their small business, their mom and pop shops during the pandemic, those people I feel sorry for, and now are probably homeless or not able to sustain a job anymore, or even have a business after that, default or whatever. I feel sorry for those people. And the ones who are the student loans, I immensely feel sorry for, because they were believing they were doing all the things right, but they just didn't have that luck, okay? And also they didn't qualify, like I just explained to you, for what I just mentioned. The, FAFSA, 1, the Pell Grant, 2, or it's probably not available or offered, or 3, they didn't get a scholarship. And number 4, they probably came from middle income parents and low income parents, more than likely, between that type of tax brackets. And that's why they probably didn't qualify, even also for FAFSA, Pell Grant. And also, like I said, they weren't really some kind of person or thing that the school or that classroom they came from and they were majoring in or something didn't give them like a scholarship as like a little, Christmas gift, if you will, for your courses or school or whatever. They didn't get that. So they just had to make the best of a bad situation, and that was the only place they can turn to. And they wanted to pursue an education because, like I just mentioned, the 2 reasons, because they don't want to be a statistic and they want to get out of generational curses, and so that's why they're there. And some of them had pretty much no choice. And like I said, most of the time they probably didn't qualify or didn't meet the criteria to even get those things I just explained to you. So hopefully you understand what's going on here and be understanding why that might be. Why would someone do this and go out of the way to do something like this that sounds ludicrous and crazy? Thank God I never had this issue, but I feel sorry for those the most that had to. And that's why I feel like some of these people have been robbed the American dream, because it's become their American nightmare. So hopefully you can understand, sir, and be a little bit sentimental, if not forgiving, for those people who didn't waste the government like those PPP fraudsters did. Okay, have a good night, sir, and bye.